Things you didn't know or realize about Jehovah's Witnesses. What's the reason that they don't celebrate holidays or birthdays? Well, they'll say it's because they have pagan origins. In reality, many things that we use nowadays and have nowadays have pagan origins. For example, wedding rings, anniversaries, piñatas, things that we use regularly have pagan origins and are accepted for Jehovah's Witnesses. So they might say, okay, well, no, the reason we don't celebrate, for example, birthdays is because the two examples that they have of birthdays in the Bible are bad. They have the example of Pharaoh in Egypt in Genesis 40 and John the Baptizer's beheading in Matthew 14, and then also and also the same story but in Mark 6:21 through 28 of John the Baptizer's beheading. So both examples end in bloodshed, badly. So obviously that means all birthdays are bad, right? Well, the issue is that just because something is portrayed in a certain way in the Bible, so for example, this happens on a certain celebration, the birthday, it isn't outright condemnation of the celebration itself. Jehovah's Witnesses, they say that, well, since the two examples of birthdays we have in the Bible end badly, then that means God must view them badly. Well, using that Jehovah's Witness logic, then shouldn't dogs be viewed badly? Should we not have dogs? Because every time the Bible mentions a dog, it's in a negative light. Revelation 22:15, Matthew 7:6, Psalm 22:16, Isaiah 56:10, Matthew 15:26, Matthew 15:27, Isaiah 56:11, etc., etc., etc. Anytime you look up the example of a dog, it usually has to do with some sort of like oppression or chewing on the bones of flesh. There's no positive light in the Bible in reference to dogs. So does God outright condemn dogs? Okay, so let's forget the example of the dogs. And let's focus on the pagan origins for an example, like for a moment. Well, maybe that's true, right? They do have pagan origins. Like we said, many things do. But like, so what? It's not... No one celebrates those things keeping in mind that it has these pagan origins, right? Like, who celebrates a birthday thinking that they're doing whatever that origin was? Like, no one does. It's far removed from it. So, putting a Jehovah's Witness example, like something that a witness could use is like a piñata. I've been to parties before where witnesses use piñatas. Well, piñatas have clear pagan origins. You can Google it. They are something that I'm surprised Jehovah's Witnesses allow it. But as of yet, right now, Watchtower hasn't condemned piñatas. In fact, in the references that you look up in GW.org, it gives you one of the newer ones is July 8, 2004 in the Awake magazine. In the section from our readers, it says right here, I'll read it verbatim. Christians refrain from any celebrations or customs that continue to involve false religious beliefs or activities that violate Bible principles. For example, the Bible definitely puts birthday celebrations in a bad light. However, it is obvious that a custom has no current false religious significance and involves no violation of Bible principles. Each Christian must make a personal decision as to whether he will follow such a custom. Okay, so again, it says right here that it's up to your conscience if it's clearly removed from the pagan origins. But in the middle of this paragraph, they shoehorn that the Bible definitely puts birthday celebrations in a bad light. So, okay, so do I get to use my conscience or not? You're telling me the Bible views this as a bad light, yet I have to use my conscience. There is no choice. So what frame of reference are they using, like, the term bad light? Like, dogs are framed badly, yet we can still have them? And birthdays are viewed badly, I suppose, in a bad light, but we can't have, like, what is their frame of reference? What determines what is viewed as a bad light and should be condemned versus viewed at a bad light and is, like, far removed from whatever its origins are? Is it really up to conscience, or is it really like just something imposed onto the leadership, by leadership? I mean, in the beginning of that reference, it says that Christians avoid things that violate Bible principles, like these customs, but none of these modern day customs, these versions, violate Bible principles. There's no principle being violated by celebrating your birthday. There's no principle violated by having a good time in Christmas. It's just not it, you know? And there's no choice to use your conscience on that, because if you do celebrate those things as a Jehovah's Witness, you're penalized. So this idea that you have to make a personal decision is not true. You know, that's just something that they want people to believe. But in reality, they've imposed their own, dogmatic rules on them. So if you go to jw.org and look at the Insight volume, the reference that they are referencing, like the references that are from Jehovah's Witnesses, like at the bottom, you'll see like from this scholar, what they would call Christian scholars. The references they use are from 1913 and 1882. So they haven't tried to update their views on these celebrations, on these things, on holidays and birthdays. They have really antiquated views on them. And it's simply because it's just easier to just keep the members like ostracized, and it's easier to keep people, separated, because when you're separated and ostracized, you grow a victim complex. And many witnesses have a victim complex. Many witnesses suffer through the sunk loss fallacy, which essentially is like, you've already put all your chips in one plate. You've gone this far. Why quit now? So in reality, Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't celebrate holidays and birthdays for old reasoning. And even when you use their current reasoning, that it's a conscious matter, for example, the dogs and piñatas, it just doesn't hold up. So, are you really using your conscience to make personal decisions based off scripture? Or are you just following the rules of an organization that hasn't done anything to change or better itself?